Hello guys, welcome to Follow Up Wednesday episode 2. I'm so excited about this episode. November the 28th, this past Sunday, TC was on fire, man. And he's right, there is a biblical famine coming. He threw so many golden nuggets that there were just too many to absorb that day. And that is the reason for Follow Up Wednesday, right? So we can slow it down and talk about some of these golden nuggets a little closer. So the first golden nugget that I picked up, and you guys might have picked up something different, so please put it in the comments. What did you pick up? The principles are timeless, right? When the word comes into your heart and mind, it changes the way you see things. But the point is, or the golden nugget is, the principles are timeless. Think about that. So his principles are timeless. And he goes on to say that the testimonies, the stories, right? What happened to those people, to Peter, Matthew, Paul back then, those testimonies are our meditation, or should be our meditation, because his principles are timeless. So what happened to those people then can happen to us now. So let's think about that. Well, first, in order to think about that, we have to know the testimonies. We have to know the word. We have to know the stories. We have to know what these people went through. We have to know that Peter was one of the ones, the first disciples, right? When Jesus told them, "Hey, follow me," him and his brother, and they did. And after that, he was the one that denied him 3 times, and he went on to be one of the best apostles. And it's a wonderful story. I'm still getting into the word. I don't know the whole story yet. But it's wonderful to know what happened to Peter, his transformation, how he went from denying him to being one of the best disciples. And Jesus called it ahead of time. He told him, "Hey, you will deny me." "No, I will never do that to you, master." I think he called him, or teacher, or whatever. And sure enough, he did. So we're not any different than Peter. So it's important to meditate on that and to think. But in order for us to think and meditate on this testimonies, we have to know the stories. So we need to get into the word, right? So that's golden nugget number 2, is the parable of the seeds, right? So Jesus, in that parable, the farmer throws the seeds, and some seed lands on good soil, and some seeds land on bad soil, and they grow quickly, but quickly die because weather and other circumstances. But the Spirit of God is throwing the seeds, but don't take time to meditate, right? So he's throwing so in this case, TC's throwing the seeds at us, right? He's giving us this wonderful message, but if we don't do this, if we don't take the time to go back and understand what he was saying, and go back, he mentioned Romans 12, faith comes through the word, and we should read Romans 12 to see what he's saying about how faith comes through the word. He mentions Psalms 119. They will repeat themselves because he doesn't change. Yes. So we should go back to Psalms 119 and see, what did TC mean here when he says that his principles are timeless? What does Psalms 119 say? Oh, okay. See how we're studying and we're meditating on the word. But for that, we should know the word. And for that, we should have a habit to get into our Bible. And for that, we need to make advanced commitments and decisions to get into the word. So it's wonderful, and the seeds, we need to take the time to meditate on these testimonies. We don't consume the word because they believe God's word. They receive his blessings. David was after God's heart again. So these stories about, in this case, when Joseph was in the pit. So whether it's Daniel, whether it's Joseph, whether it's Peter. So that's what we need to understand the stories, because, for example, Joseph going into the pit is just a figure of speech. Fast forward to today's days, we often get into pits, don't we? They may not be with lions, but they may be with creditors, with bad relationships, with saying the wrong things and getting in trouble, with just not being righteous, just so many things that we do, unfortunately, that we get ourselves into pits, right? And what should we do? That's why we need to meditate on these stories, because what happened to Joseph back then can happen to us now. Why? Because God, His principles are timeless. The testimonies are our meditation. So see how important this is? Now you may say, okay, I get it. I gotta get into the word. Yes, let me learn the stories. Let me meditate on these testimonies that happened to these people back then. How do I discipline myself to get into the word every day? Right? Because we should get into the word daily. I mean, the daily prayer says, lead me not into temptation. It doesn't say take the temptation away from me. It says, lead me not into it. So we know that we have a constant battle, spiritual battle, right? The devil, he mentions that here, by the way. He says that the enemy comes to rob, kill, and destroy. That is what we have is the shield of faith to block every firing dart from the enemy. So how can we take our faith away from you, Romans? Okay, yeah. So the shield of faith, that is our biggest treasure, right? That is our biggest leverage against the enemy, is our faith. Work on increasing our faith. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. So if we don't have the physical habits of studying the word daily, how are we supposed to increase our most valuable asset, which is our faith? Right? That's what the devil wants. He wants our faith. He knows if he can take our faith away from us, he's got a lot of leverage, right? If he can make us doubt, if he can make us fearful, he's got a lot of leverage, because with fear brings other cousins, right? Fear never comes alone. Fear always comes with anxiety and doubts and depression and uneasiness and all these ugly cousins, right? Love, for example, positive feelings, those can stand by themselves. You can just feel gratitude. You can just feel love by itself. But it's really rare when you feel a negative emotion by itself. Usually one negative emotion is going to link to another. Fear is going to link to anxiety, and anxiety is going to link to uneasiness, and uneasiness is going to link to depression. That depression is going to lead to hypertension, and that hypertension is going to lead to more fear. It's just a downward cycle. So that's what the devil wants. He wants to take our faith, because he knows if he can take our faith, he can get into our heads, and he can start chattering, right? But when we know the word, when we can meditate on those testimonies, because we know that his principles are timeless, then we can do what Jesus did to the devil on that mount, when he told him, it is written, man should not live by bread alone. Oh, but why don't you do this? It is written, and so he kept going back to the devil with it is written, and that's beautiful. We should do that. We should be able to do that. My good friend Eric, he's better versed in the Bible than I am. I'm just barely getting into it, really. I just recently I've grown a real desire to get into it, and it's so wonderful. And that's why I'm doing these videos, because I want us to grow together. I want you guys to realize that these sermons, these teachings on Sundays are not enough. We need to review them. We need to chew on them more, and to realize that these golden nuggets are here to make our lives better, right? But we need to expand them and integrate them into our lives, because after all, that's what learning is. To me, learning equals change, right? You've been at the church for 20 years, right? But you haven't implemented anything. You haven't learned, bro. Don't kid yourself. If you are not implementing what the Bible teaches, your life is not going to change. You're just being at church for 20 years, right? Learning equals change. So let's let this learning change us, change our mind. Romans 12:2 says, be not conformed to this world. Let's not be conformed. Let's not see this world as it is, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. That's what we're doing now. We're renewing our minds, right? By meditating on these testimonies, by realizing his principles are timeless. And because of that, we're growing this hunger to know the principles, to know the story, so we can meditate on them, so we can come back to the devil and say, it is written, right? This, and this, right? Let's take time to do that. And that starts with making decisions. Okay, so I found this wonderful article. It's only 4 pages long. Let's read it together. And it's about decision making. When you get through this article, you're not gonna like the article very much, because you're gonna have what's called cognitive dissonance. If you are to believe what the article says, then you're going to be forced to make some changes. Those changes are going to take you outside your comfort zone. Nobody likes to be outside the comfort zone, and that's where the growth is. That's when you get to see God be God, right? Because in our comfort zone, there's no growth, first of all. That's why learning equals change. It equals getting outside of comfort zone. It equals realizing or giving God a chance to be God, right? When we make a decision. Now, what is a decision? And the article, it explains it very eloquently what a decision is, but it's basically to cut off any other possibility. So our job is just to identify the what. What is it that we want to make a decision to go get it? How? We don't know. We shouldn't know. Dude, if we know the how, that means we're just being lazy, right? And because we know the how, we know what it takes, we just haven't done it. That means we're being lazy. And Jesus doesn't like lazy people. So let's not be lazy. If we know the how, let's get to it. But we shouldn't, if the goal is big enough, we shouldn't know the how. And that's wonderful, because now we're stepping outside our comfort zone, and now we're exercising our faith. We're growing our faith as a result of not knowing the how. How am I going to do this? Right? Now we get to see God be God. And it's a wonderful thing to realize that and to actually see it. I mean, it's real, right? You make a goal, you make a decision, and next thing you know, this resource shows up. This person shows up. You get this phone call. You have this inkling. You have this idea. Hey, where did that come from? You made a decision, bro. And now you're letting God be God. You're stepping outside your comfort zone. You're exercising your faith. And now things are happening for you. Changes are happening in your life. That's what we want, right? So let's learn this word. Let's make a decision to first. One of the first decisions we should make is to get into our word every day, right? Okay, so that may be a very uncomfortable decision, right? Every day, bro? Oh, man, can I just do it Sundays like I always do? You know? No. We're not going to be Sunday Christians here. We want to be salt, right? We want to be light to the world. And for that, we need to be committed. I mean, hey, it's not that hard, guys. I mean, we spend a lot of time doing stupid things, right? Just when you're waiting in line, you know, when you're waiting at the light, there's so much downtime throughout our day that we just make a decision to go after what we want. We can utilize that downtime to our benefit instead of checking our Facebook account or seeing who texts us or thinking about who we can call to see how we're going to hang out this weekend, or just frivolous things that don't really add value to your life, right? So let's make that decision. Let's get on with stepping outside our comfort zone, and let's start changing.